Hey everybody, Russ here from Shaper, and do I look tired?
A little bit, but we earned it.
We just went on an awesome journey cutting this brass branding iron with Shaper Origin.
Yeah, we in today's session we go through everything you need to know about cutting brass, all the origin settings, the bits that you want to use, and we learned a lot about how to fixture these small parts in Workstation.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We learned a lot. Make sure you watch all the way through to the end to see how it turned out. And if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. If you have a question, drop that in the comments below. And make sure to join us live every other Thursday on shapertools.com/sessions.
Hope you enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Shaper Sessions. My name is Jake.
I'm Russ.
And today we're cutting some brass.
We're cutting a lot of brass.
Cutting a lot of brass.
We're going to make one of these. We're going to make a branding iron. If you haven't seen what these do, it's pretty cool. We're going to burn some wood at the end of the show.
Super fun and unique way to brand your finished piece of furniture. And it's, a really common thing that people want to be able to make custom for themselves and be able to use over and over again.
Yeah, that's right. We also get a lot of questions about cutting brass with Origin, and we're going to cover all of those today as well. We're going to design this in two ways. We're going to use Studio, and we're going to design a second with Shaper Trace. We're going to cut one of them. And then also at the end of the show, we've got something really fun. Got it hidden off stage here. We're going to be giving away, this Festool Cisair HEPA air purifier.
Yeah. Russ was telling me earlier that this thing is powerful enough to clean the air in a one-bedroom apartment 3 times in an hour.
3 times in an hour. Yeah.
Which is very cool.
To HEPA standards also.
Right.
So you didn't sound very excited about that. This is like my favorite thing that Festool has released ever.
No, it's fantastic.
Because I love my lungs.
Yes.
I just love them. So we're going to be giving that away at the end of the show. We always do giveaways on these things, but this is something really special. As always, to enter that, there's going to be a poll question that pops up in the middle of the show. We'll remind you when it's time, of course. But as people kind of filter in, I know everybody likes to say their hellos in the chat at the beginning of the show. We've got some cutting to do.
We do. We're starting off with just plywood. We are making a fixture for our brass. So we're cutting just a little stock of 1/2-inch thick brass. And it's a very dense material, obviously. And so we want to make sure that thing is secure when we're really cutting into it. So on Workstation here, I've just made a quick fixture exactly the size of my brass with some corner relief and an area to be able to pry it out after the fact.
Because we're going to be cutting on both sides of this. Actually, I should have written that down in our run of show. We got to make sure that we cut both sides of this. Don't let me forget to cut the hole in the back, because we're going to cut the branding iron portion itself and then also the part in the back where we're going to thread a hole on that so that we can attach it to the rest of our setup here. So we got to be able to pry this thing out without moving the fixture. That's the key part.
Yeah. And Russ is confident that he can tap a hole in brass live on camera.
Yeah,
straight.
I think so. So while everybody's filtering in, let's go ahead. We're going to cut some wood. This is a good intro to how Origin works for anyone who's new to the show. You've got a pocket to do first.
Pocket, some helix holes, and a slot.
Okay, let's cut it.
Let's do it.
And while you're cutting that, I better go grab all of these tapping accessories that I set out on the other bench over here and forgot to bring over to the show. But a little bit about what Jake's doing right here. He's pocketing out the pocket here for this brass fixture. And pocketing allows you to remove a bunch of material really quickly with Origin. Then we're going to come back to that and fine-tune the fit with an inside cut. We're also going to make sure to clear out those corners with, we call them dog bones, which just clear out the corners of these cuts to make sure that we've got room for the corners of the brass piece, because as you can see, if we just left the square as it is, we would have some round corners there that, would cause some interference. Origin is keeping Jake exactly on the line, so we're going to end up with a perfect fit on this fixture here, or a tunable fit, I should say. We're going to do a test fit on that, make sure that everything works the way that we expect it to, and we can adjust the fit from there if we really need to. going into these dog bone holes here. Jake's got helix mode turned on, so even though you can't see that dot moving so much because it's quite a small cut path, Origin is helixing all the way down to the bottom of that hole to make sure that it's the diameter that Jake programmed when he was setting up this toolpath. And now he's going to cut the slot to be able to pry out these parts completely with auto pass. And let's check the settings on that. We want to cut those a little over 1/4 inch at a time with a roughing and a finishing pass. Now for this, just because it's clearance space to pry this stuff apart, it doesn't need to be quite so precise, but we like to get the best precision that we can. So roughing and a finishing pass always is going to give you more precision than not. And coming into the finish pass here. The cool thing about this blue cut history is that it shows you what you've already cut, so Jake knows that he's cutting when he comes to the wings of this fixture, and when he gets to the middle part, which is already blue, he knows, hey, I've already cut that. Very nice. And before we move away from this too much, after we clean up the fuzz, of course we always do that. Test fit.
Yeah, this is exactly the size that I measured the brass to be, so good chance it's going to be a little snug.
And what, are we going to throw a little bit of double-sided tape under that? Just for good measure?
Just
Probably
for good
a good
measure.
Idea.
Yeah.
The other thing that's interesting about this fixture that we haven't talked about yet is that we're actually cutting this a little bit deeper than the brass itself on purpose. This is a trick that we figured out just recently. This helps keep the brass that you've cut from digging into the base of Origin, which is replaceable, and you can take care of it by putting some tape on it, for example, if you really need to cut on brass specifically. But today we're trying this cool trick where we lower the brass surface relative to the base of Origin there, and we're going to cut a little bit below the surface of the plywood. But okay, so you test fit this. Where are we at?
I'm going to shave off like 2 thou. Something
Okay.
really small.
So you guys saw that was pretty snug there. Going back with just that -2 thousandths offset. Remember, a minus offset is always going to remove a little bit of extra material. So if we're on the inside of this pocket, which we are, that's going to make that just a little bit bigger. And let's try that fit again.
I mean, it's like,
You need to be able to get it out.
that is the truth.
Let's give it a little more.
All
Maybe
right.
4 thousandths total. What do you think?
4 thou is going to be perfect.
Okay. Real quick one here.
Doesn't even feel like you're cutting anything. Just a whisper.
Yeah, but that's going in, right?
It's going to go in. It's just getting snagged sideways. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there it is.
Nice.
It's pushing too hard.
And you can see we're just below that surface. So when we're cutting this, we do need to make sure that we use that tape to keep these parts down because we won't have the base of Origin. Wait, do that again.
I will. Bloop.
Very nice. So we're going to use the tape to keep this down because we won't have the base of Origin pressing down on this brass like we usually do. But this is going to give us a little clearance to keep the base of the Origin pristine, nice and smooth. Make sure you don't get any brass chips stuck in there. Very nice.
Very nice.
So we should talk about what we're going to design. We've got 2 things. We've got this NB, which is quite large. We did this with trace, so I'll show you guys how to capture this, and we'll make this with trace here. But before we do that, I want to show you what we're actually going to be cutting during this show. So over here on the computer, we've got Studio pulled up, and we're just going to be making a nice letter J in a circle here. Beautiful. J for Jake, my favorite sessions host. Couple tricks about this that we're going to get to. I want to keep a nice border around this because for small letters that helps me keep the brand nice and flat. We're going to pocket away this space between the circle and the J. And we're going to use Shapeshifter to help make that easy on the tool. One thing that hasn't been done yet that is super important for branding irons is you've got to make sure to flip the design around. So we're also going to do that in Studio so that we're completely sure that everything's flipped the way that it needs to be and we don't have to remember to do it later.
How many times have we made that mistake?
At least 7. At least 7.
And it really sucks when you spend all the time cutting it out of brass and then you realize
you don't realize until you go to brand the part that you've done the whole thing backwards. Okay, so let's design this. It's pretty simple Studio stuff, but we do want to walk through this step by step. So the first step always when starting with Studio is making a new design. All right, for the outline of this, I just want to use circles. Circles are here in Make Shape. Circle. This is 1-inch diameter material, so I'm going to make this circle just a little bit smaller. We'll make it 0.9, just to give a little bit of clearance all the way around. We don't want that coming all the way out to the edge. I'll make another one here. I want there to be about a 1/16 border all the way around, so that's an 1/8 inch total difference. We can do 0.9 minus 0.125. That makes this that 1/8 inch smaller for a 1/16 inch border. And then I want to add the letter J. And we talked about fonts on last week's session. We've got a whole bunch of them here. I already looked through them before the show. And I know especially that I want a serif font. We can filter for those up here. And I really liked this Allegria font right here. And we can just drag that to a size that I think looks good. I think that's a good balance, don't you?
Nice.
Now, right now, this shape and this shape are different. So if I went to do inside cuts on this circle, I could accidentally cut into the J. If I did outside cuts on the J, I could accidentally cut into this border. I want to combine these two shapes so that Origin can be a little bit smarter about how it plans these paths. And the way that I do that is by hitting Shift and then clicking to select both of these, the J and the inside circle. Then I'll use Shapeshifter to pick this shape. This shape is the shape of the pocket that we're trying to clear out. We're going to leave the J and we're going to leave the circle around it. We'll make that shape. We don't need to keep the existing shapes. And now we have 2 shapes total in this design, even though it might look like we have 3. We have this shape, which includes the J and that inside circle. And then we have this second shape over here, which is going to be our outside cut to clear around the outside. Now, to make sure that this is centered, even though it's a pretty simple shape, I am going to go ahead and add the origin anchor for this. Now we can go and plan to check this out. Now, none of these cuts are really going to be pre-planned for you. This one is already an outside cut. That's great. This one, though, it's been set to an online cut because we shape-shifted that. I want to make sure that that's an inside cut. To preview how this would look, we could even make it a pocket cut. But because you want to keep maximum control of your router bit at all times when you're cutting with metals, I would recommend avoiding pocketing cuts with metals and sticking just to lines with offsets, which is what we're going to do in the show today. So I've got a pocket here. This is going to let me inspect to see which router bits I need to use to make sure that I can clear all the sharp corners out in this. So you can see if you look over here, I'm using an 1/8 inch router bit, and it's not quite getting all the way up to the template line inside that J. What happens if I switch to a 1/16 inch router bit? We're getting there, but if I zoom in on this, you can see there's still actually a little bit of a gap. So today, this might be the smallest that we've ever gone on any session. We're going to go all the way down to 1 millimeter. And I think that's good enough.
What does that come out to in inches?
0.04 approximately. Wow. Yeah. So we'll do this in 3 steps. We'll do it in a 1/4 inch, or not a 1/4 inch, an 1/8 inch, a 1/16 inch, and then a 1 millimeter, just to use the maximum diameter router bit we can while still clearing out those corners to the precision that we want. Before I send this to Jake, I am going to switch this back to an inside cut. And I want to show you guys how we're going to cut this, because we can preview this really easily in Studio. Here's what this looks like with our 1/8 inch bit diameter. But you'll notice that we're missing this area over here and this area over here. Well, this is where we're going to use offsets on Origin. We're going to come in first with, what do you think, a 0.1 inch offset ought to do it? So that's going to offset this cut from all these edges and get in here and get in here. Then we can bring that down to, what do you think, Jake, a 0.05 inch offset?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to get us a little closer. We can do, let's say, maybe a 0.02 inch offset. It's going to get us a little closer. We've still got some stuff up here that I really want to clear out without going all the way down to that finishing pass. So maybe we do a 0.1 inch. We skip the 0.02 and we go to a 0.01.
Okay.
And then we'll go to that 0 inch offset, which brings us all the way up to these edges. And at this point, when we get to that 0 inch offset, this is when we're going to start stepping down those router bit diameters. We're going to do the 1/8 inch first, and then we'll come down to the 16th. Then we'll come down to the 1 millimeter, just to get all the way into that last corner.
Beautiful.
You're writing down notes?
Yeah, that first one we're going to do
0.1 inch offset.
0.1, 0.01.
0.1, 0.05, 0.01. I think we should do that in some steps. Because it's a metal. It's going to be a lot of resistance.
Yeah. And what's nice is we can use AutoPass to really take this in steps.
Yeah. It looks like a small part, but some of the small parts can be the most complicated.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I'm going to get this seated in there.
Nice. So that's our first design. The other design that I want to show you guys is, well, how do we get this super nice... Sorry, Goose, I'm totally flashing my desktop there. How do we get this super nice organic brand? Now...
Did you flip the J?
Did I flip the J?
Yeah, good one, Goose.
Goose coming in with the super clutch quality assurance here. I didn't flip the J. We better go back and do that. Here's that design. I can hit Control A to select all. Down here, we've got mirror horizontal. This would have been the 8th time. So we can mirror horizontal down here at the bottom of the screen. That's what we want to cut so that we can cut the correct J and burn it the right direction.
Nailed it.
Okay, great. Now, how do we do this organic one? Well, I drew this before the show. I wonder how many times I've drawn this. NB here on this pad and paper, right? So this is what Trace is great for. Trace is great for capturing these hand drawings and turning them into something that you can cut with Origin. So I'll load up the Trace app on the phone by going to trace.shapertools.com. Trace.shapertools.com. There we go. Now you want to allow that to access your camera. When I point that at the trace frame, it's going to say ready to capture. Just hit that button and it's automatically going to convert that image that's captured to an SVG file. Now, I did a less smooth job of drawing this than I've done in the past. You can see if I zoom in on this, I've got some wavy lines right there, and I don't want to keep that in my finished result. Now, here's what's really cool about this. You can adjust the smoothness of the capture in the app itself by hitting the filter button, those two sliders on the right-hand side there, and by hitting this wiggly line down here at the bottom. This is the smoothness adjustment slider. We can turn up the smoothness on this, and you can see as I'm doing it, it's smoothing out those lines. And that looks way better. That's definitely brand quality right there. So we can hit done here, click the check mark. I'm going to open this with Shaper Studio. We'll make it a new studio design. NB, love that. Let's place one object. And you know what I better do before I do anything else is hit this mirror button. And that's a brand that's more or less ready to cut. I mean, if we really wanted to go through all the steps on here, we would go to plan. We would make sure that this was set to an outside cut, or is this going to be an inside cut? We would want this one to be an outside cut. So we've got all that ready to go. And this will sync to origin so that you can cut it out. But today we're sticking with the smaller one because these brass cuts can take a while.
Yeah.
I don't know. How long do you think it's going to take us to cut this J? 10 minutes? 15?
Maybe about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. That's the first half of the show.
Yeah. Before we dive into cutting the brass.
I thought we were going to have way more to talk about. I kind of cruised through that. Is there anything that we should revisit?
We never showed this up close.
Oh, yeah. So you can really see here on that origin cam, you can see the offset lines from the style of cutting that we're going to do. So we're really trying to follow path by path on this.
And that just, one, looks fantastic, and two, kind of gives you just a better cutting experience rather than pocketing and going from cutting very little to a lot of brass.
Yeah. It's that jerkiness that you want to try to avoid.
Yeah.
Should we pull up the poll question to give away the Cis-Air?
Yeah.
Okay. So, because I mentioned this right at the top of the show, I want to explain this one more time because we got a really cool thing to give away today. It's a new Festool product that you may not have heard of. It's the Festool Cis-Air. And this is a portable HEPA filter for your shop or for the job site. It'll clean the air of a 10 by 10 room 10 times in an hour.
10 times in an hour?
10 times in an hour for a 10 by 10 room.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you've got this in your shop, it's really going to cycle through the air. It's a HEPA filter, which is really serious. It's taking out even those really, really small particles. Those are the ones that are worst for your lungs. And since this is new, they sent us one to give away on the show. Not this one that's all dusty because we've been using it. We've got a brand new one.
I mean, it's saved us in the shop quite a few times now when our dust collector went out.
When our dust... You know when I use it the most? When I'm changing the bag on the dust collector.
Genius.
Because when I'm dumping that bag out, it's like...
Yeah.
Plumes of sawdust. And this just... It sucks it right away from your lungs, and it takes care of it for you. It's really taking the hit.
Nice.
Taking one for the team.
So that question of the day is, what other materials have you tried to cut with origin?
Yeah, we're cutting brass today. Curious. I'm hoping that somebody has cut something that we haven't yet so that we can try it. We've done brass, aluminum, Corian, solid surface countertops, foam, wood, acrylic. I'm drawing a blank. Any farther than that? What else? That might be it.
Yeah.
That's a hefty list. So if you've cut something with origin, any crazy materials? Anything other than
base grade
wood or brass? Yeah. What other materials have you cut with origin? Really interested. Yeah. I wonder if somebody's cut like aerogel with it.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. I wonder if you can cut that stuff.
Even if it's just drywall. I'm curious to see if you've cut drywall with it.
Yeah. Nice.
It's the fanciest drywall I saw out there.
So answer that poll question, and you're going to be entered to win this Festool Cis-Air. Sweet.
A couple of announcements, reminders of announcements. We will be at the Fine Woodworking New England event, May 9th and 10th.
That's a week and a half from now.
That is.
It's a really cool event. We were both there last year. They've got talks from fine woodworking contributors. They've got a vintage tool sale out in the yard. It's at the Connecticut Valley School of Woodworking, which is just a beautiful shop that teaches great classes, and you should go just to see the shop.
And the furniture that people show off there.
Yeah, and they have people indoors with booths of beautiful period style New England colonial whatever furniture that are just incredible and very different from what we do on the show here.
Very different. There's also, I hope he's here again this year, but there is a guy that had the most incredible tool chest that he built.
Do you remember what that was called? That was a famous tool chest. He did a recreation of a very famous tool chest.
Yeah, it's like a luthier's tool chest. I'm blanking.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure the comments is like, it's this, duh.
You're going to just have to go to the show and see it yourself because all this stuff was incredible. And we're going to be there. So hope to see you there. Okay.
Studley tool chest.
Goose is really coming in with the over air recommendations.
Love
on
that.
this
Thank
one.
you, Goose.
Yeah, nice. Cool. That was it for the announcements. I
Nice.
think we've wrapped up the poll question for today. And let's show this week's shop tour. This one's from Bob Middleton. So thank you, Bob, for sending this in.
You ask for a video of a dusty shop? This is the place. As we entered, to our right is some storage on the wall, storage on the door. The doorway leads to an unconditioned space for additional outside storage, undercover. The space is conditioned with a heat pump for year-round use. Power tools are all on wheels. We have a bandsaw, a belt sander, and that flips over to a joiner. The other side of the door is additional storage. We have some tool storage. On the floor is a planer. I lift that up with a power hoist, which is on the other side of the shop. Continuing around, we come to an area where we have the Shaper Origin storage and accessories, sheet goods storage, fasteners, other storage, other items. In this corner we have an air cleaner, or air filter, an air compressor with a hose, pneumatic tools, front of the shop/garage. Additional wood storage. I told you I never saw a piece that I could throw out. And here is sheet goods storage. The other side of which is clamps, which I still need more. This is the Shaper Origin workstation. The table extensions are quick connects. This is one of several different configurations. And there are a couple others there. Dust collection for the Shaper. Behind is a router table, also on wheels. And we have the assembly table, where most of the work is done. Even the garage doors are used for storage. Some power tools, electric power tools, drawer storage, miter saw, another workbench with hand tools. I have a plain collection. You'll notice above that there is a duct system for dust collection. The cyclone is in the back room, and the storage comes over to a series of hoses which I use for the table saw and the bandsaw, the sander, the joiner, the drum sander as needed. There is also a tabletop drill press. And that's how we fit 10 pounds of stuff into a 3-pound sack. Thank you.
Right on. Thank you so much for sending us that, Bob.
I love a dusty shop,
Of course.
and I loved those workstation accessories.
Yeah, what was that all about? What's the quick connect? You seem to
Quick connects to attach his accessories to the workstation shelf.
genius.
Plus some really crazy 3D printed looking fixturing
Yeah.
on there. I thought that was great. So thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have a lot of brass talk in this
Let's get
show.
down to brass
do.
tacks.
And, okay, yeah, let's get down to brass tacks.
I mean, it was there.
It was right there. We're gonna cut this branding iron, and we're gonna see how it goes. We're gonna see all the settings that Jake used. We're gonna talk through this as slowly as possible, and I think we're gonna have plenty of time because this is the key with brass: is that you want to move at a nice, slow, and steady pace.
Yeah. Don't try to rush into brass.
So we've got our fixture pocket cut out over here. You've got your tape that I saw you apply earlier. We're going to stick this piece of brass down in here. And this is that very first tip that we've got for you all. When you can, if your piece is small enough that Origin's not going to fall into this hole that you've created, go ahead and recess the depth of the material that you're cutting down below your fixture a little bit. And this is going to help prevent brass chips from getting stuck up in the bottom of the machine. Tip number 1. What else is going on with our setup here, Jake?
It's a snug fit, but not overly snug so that I can get it out because we do need to flip. And as you saw, we have access points from either side to be able to pry this up and out. I'm going to swap away from my 1/4-inch cutter because I'm not going to be using that for the rest of today. And I'm going to go to my brass workhorse, which is the 1/8-inch O flute, 1/8-inch by 1/4 O flute.
Mm-hmm.
This is our go-to for cutting any kind of soft metals, mainly because 1, O flute is just generally better for chip extraction. 2, it's short and stubby and strong. There's little to no deflection on it because it's so short.
Yeah, you want the best stability possible when you're working with brass.
However, if I was trying to cut thicker brass, I would run into an issue there.
Yeah, you actually, before the show, cut this out of a piece of bar stock to make sure that we had nice square edges for this fixture.
Yeah.
Set it down on workstation, right? Made a little fixture shallow in the shelf and used that 1/2-inch long 1/8-inch bit to trim off the sides? Or did you use a different bit?
No,
for
I'm
that?
sorry. No, I used just the 1/4-inch bit.
Oh, really?
But I was
Okay.
just taking 5 thou off of the edges just basically until I got rid of my Sharpie marks.
Nice. Just to trim it up.
Yeah. Okay, I think I'm ready for that file.
Okay, I hope you're logged into my account.
Wah.
Uh-oh. Okay, hand it over.
Nobody look.
We're going to put the secret password here live on air.
Yeah. If you haven't seen some of the other things in brass that we've cut, we did a whole show on keyholes, how to cut them directly into the wood, how to cut them out of brass. Can't forget about this word of the day, escutcheon. Escutcheon.
I took this one out because I thought this was a cool part. This is the 95-degree stop from a Brusso quadrant hinge. And I thought that if you wanted to stop the lid of your box at some angle other than 95 degrees, you could make your own quadrant lid hinge stop, quadrant hinge lid stop.
Or if you just lose it.
Or if you
It
just
looks
lose
like
it.
something that would easily misplace.
Okay, we're in now.
All right.
It's under there as Circle J.
Get rid of that. And I can actually get rid of a lot of this because I'm just placing it
These were all just temporary fixture making files that you dropped on here before the show?
Yeah, and I want to start fresh here.
And where did this grid come from? This is a centerline grid. This is a rectangle probe.
Probe rectangle grid.
It's a probe rectangle. Nice.
Just give me the dead center of this.
Okay, so everything that we're going to be working off of is the center of this fixture.
Yeah. And just so we see what's going on, I'm going to go ahead and add to scan. There we go. Import, and it should be the top of the list. Circle J, and place it right at 0, 0.
Mm-hmm.
First things first, I'm going to need to tell Origin that we're using that 1/8 inch bit. And I want to, especially because we're slightly recessed in our fixture, want to make sure that I'm touching off on the brass itself.
You know, one thing we didn't talk about, Jake, actually, is how deep we want to cut these. And I didn't set a depth for these in studio. Do we want to set that encoded depth on the tool here?
I think we should.
Okay.
And I'm feeling like 16th inch.
I think a 1/16 of an inch is plenty.
Yeah. So we'll do 0.0625. And 0.0625. Bingo. All right, our first offset is going to be 0.1. And we got to do a couple of speed changes. Let's start with speeds, feeds and speeds. For our plunge, we really want to step that down to as low as it can go. And for auto, same thing.
Yep, I just like to use the slowest default speeds
Yeah.
for this. Origin can go slower than this, but I think these slowest default buttons are a good place to start.
For that spindle speed, I'm just going to turn it down to 3. Keeps the heat down, and it keeps the friction down from building up, and produces nice, clean chips. That's what we're looking for with brass. Nice, clean chips.
Yep.
All right.
What other settings do we have on here?
I'm turning on auto pass. Auto pass is really great for cutting brass because we can dial it in to where our pass depth is more or less a millimeter at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So I can open up the full settings. I can even just tell it, hey, I want my per pass to be roughly around a millimeter.
Great.
And that looks good. 3 passes. I don't care about a roughing pass right now.
Okay. Because we're going to be working with the global offset here.
Yeah.
To ease that into that 0-inch offset that we're going for eventually. Okay, so you've got a couple things to cut.
Let's get cracking.
We're going to pocket this out by stepping down the offset. And what's going on there? What's up?
Our double-sided tape didn't hold.
Uh-oh.
Pulled it right up.
We might have to rethink this whole show.
Or I just didn't push hard enough.
Okay.
So the bit just pulled it right up and drilled a different hole, deeper hole.
Okay. Hopefully not too deep of a hole. Because we were only down by about 0.05 inches, and we were trying to go to 0.06 inches, I think that we've got some room there. We could also just measure it, how deep it went. Can I see that?
I don't know if you can fit it.
Oh, yeah. That's what the probe end is. Wow, okay.
Yeah, no, that's deep.
This really went. Okay, this lifted up through the base of origin. Okay. So,
I'm going to try that again.
News, you're going to try again?
Yeah.
Okay. The good news about this is that we're really just trying to leave a positive here, so we can blast through this thing as much as we want.
No harm, no foul.
This is going to turn into one of those troubleshooting shows.
I think those are good for us.
They are good for us.
They keep us on our toes.
Yeah. Work holding is always the most important part.
Yeah, I didn't even consider that the down force would be an issue. It was a side-to-side force that I was concerned about.
Mm-hmm. We do have clamps that we can add to this if push comes to shove. We've got some clamps sitting over on the other workbench.
All right.
But we're going to give this double-sided tape one more chance. What do you think? How's it feel?
It feels good. I'm going to raise the spindle speed to a 4.
Okay.
Because maybe.
A little bit smaller of a bite per revolution then.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
the thinking. Okay. Okay, here we go. Z touching. Yeah, one more time.
Sanity check.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go.
Uh-huh. Yeah, okay. That sounds pretty good. Much better. Much better. So that double-sided tape is pressure sensitive. It actually requires pressure to activate. So for everybody listening at home, you want to make sure to give that a good press down when you're using it. That'll help a lot with the adherence. We've got some other fixturing parts, some clamps and stuff that we could use for small things like this, but they make the fixturing quite a bit more complicated. So really, whenever possible, I love sticking to this simple press fit kind of rectangle shape. And now Jake is stepping out that offset here. You can see down in there how much we're taking off. We're taking off about 0.05 inches all the way around and about 1 millimeter in depth at a time. The first cut is always the hardest. The first cut's using the full width of that router bit. Subsequent cuts are all going to be smaller than the first cut. So I feel like we're in the safe zone now. Cool thing about auto pass also is that it is ramping down between those passes. Now the thing that you want to be careful of with brass, and really with any material, is when you get to sharp corners like this, you are going to start to approach the full width of that slot again, cutting the full width away. And you can hear where there's a little bit more of a rumble when you come into those corners. How's it looking under there, Jake? Still stuck down all right? Okay, nice. Taking off that offset, we should be going down to 0.01 inches now, and that's going to help us clear out a lot of the material above and below that J, while still giving us just a little bit left for our finishing cuts. And as always, really important to keep it nice and slow, especially as you're going into these corners. And I heard a pretty big rumble over there. What's going on? It's lifting again. Oh, yeah, that wasn't stuck down at all.
I'm only concerned about this.
How did we get so much brass under the tape?
I think that bit is really pulling up. But it's okay. We're almost done.
We're just going to bite our nails and go for it? Is that what is happening here?
That's exactly what we're doing.
That's exactly what we're doing. Okay. This is like the smallest piece of brass that I would try to hold down with just tape. The bigger you go, the easier it gets. But we didn't want to sit and cut brass forever on the show.
Yeah.
So
Alternatively,
we went smaller.
well, and we wanted that like finished product, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you could leave this on the bar. Then you have a lot more surface area that you're sticking down with double-sided tape.
I think that's what I did last time. You know what? Yeah, look at this. Here, show this off on the Origin cam. That's what we should have done in the first place. But then you have to cut the thing apart. And we wanted to have nice, smooth, square edges because our egos got in the way. Because we just wanted to have this look nice. And we flew too close to the sun. All right, that's really pressed in there.
Shall we?
Let's do it. Okay. Easing into it. See, that just sounds so much better. You really do want to be listening all the time as you're doing work like this because you can hear before you can see if something's about to go wrong. I should have said something when I heard it start to get rumbly before. You want to make sure you have these nice, smooth sounding cuts. A nice hum. I hope you guys can hear that over the audio here. Oh yeah, that's really nice. So again, Jake's using that auto mode here to keep him at a nice even pace, and it's keeping things nice and smooth between all the corners. Nice. Last one here. I think it's done, Jake. How are we looking?
Couple of whoopsies, but it's going to serve its purpose.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we could probably peel it out and put it back in just to see how it's doing, or look at it over on the overhead cam. I can't see it from here, which is
Oh, you can't see it on this camera?
No, I can't really see it myself. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. We're okay. We have a couple of deeper spots, but
they're not where we're trying to leave a mark.
No.
They're in that negative space. We just made extra negative space.
We did, yeah. Call it heat relief.
I think we should tape this down again.
Pry it up, tape it down again?
Pry it up and tape it down again. Yeah.
Okay.
Just to be hyper cautious here.
We will. But I'm not as concerned with this happening with the 16th and millimeter bits.
I am.
Real? Okay.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Well, then if you are, I am.
I am.
Suddenly, I am.
Plus, I think it's so cool how you designed this just to get the right amount of pressure with those screwdrivers.
You know, I don't know who the guy was that decided to cut right through our tape surface, too.
Who cut right through our tape surface?
I did. That was me. I'm that guy.
Oh. Wait, what tape surface?
If we look in the overhead, I cut these little side channels 0.02 inches deeper on purpose.
That's what's happening.
I did that on purpose because I wanted the screwdrivers to get underneath. But I also just cut my my tape surface into 2/3.
We're going to have to do a recap at the end of this with everything that we're learning.
This is great.
On this show. I'm going to start taking notes.
All right. Get those brass chips.
All right, Jake, I've got cut away the tape surface, stick down a bigger piece of brass, full bar. What else do we have on our notes for this one? I think that's a good start.
All right. Fresh double-sided tape. No chips down there.
Mm-hmm.
I already swapped over to our 16th inch bit.
Perfect.
So let's tell Origin we have a 16th inch cutter. Make sure when we Z-touch that we are Z-touching on the high point of the brass, not the part we already cut.
Very nice. And I think that if you're using a small diameter router bit, as long as you've got a nice firm surface under it and not a super sharp point, then these small bits can handle that automatic Z-touch pretty well.
Versus a manual.
Versus a manual. This isn't an engraving bit that comes down to a hyperfine point. It's a flat-bottomed router bit that has two really nice flat flutes at the bottom that are going to support Origin. And we're touching off on brass. We're not touching off on something soft like wood, so it's not going to dig in the way that it would with something like wood when all of that pressure's down on top of it. So I like that automatic Z-touch for this.
Okie dokie. We're going to split this up again to 2 passes.
Mm-hmm. And we could go to 0-inch offset on this one. What do you think?
5 thou.
Okay. We're really sneaking up on it.
Yeah, we can go to 0.
I think we go to 0 on this, and then we just clean up that last little corner of the J with the 1mm bit.
That sounds good to me.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Okay. Fingers crossed, everybody. Important note, the fingers crossed aren't for Origin. The fingers are crossed just to make sure that our material stays stuck down the way that we want it to, because our fixturing was subpar for this show today. As you've seen, despite the 2 big holes in the side of the material here, our part is pretty much on size. And it just goes to show you how many mistakes you can make and still come out with something reasonable at the end of the day. So I encourage everybody always to go in their shop and try things that are uncomfortable for them and try to make some mistakes. Make 1 mistake every day. You're guaranteed to learn something. All right, that circle's looking good. We're going to come in and cut this J. And we really like keeping auto mode on as much as possible for these so that Origin controls that feed rate for us. Because it's really easy when you're driving Origin yourself to get ahead of yourself and try to speed things up a little bit. But with brass, it's really important that you just stick with that nice slow and steady pace of the auto settings that we set at the beginning of these cuts. Again, that's the slowest default setting for plunge and for auto with Origin.
Boy, that felt great. Nervous about this 1mm.
Don't be. I've done this a million times. Just nice and slow. We could turn that auto speed down even more.
I think you have it still.
I do have it. It's right in front of me. Very nice. There we go.
Look out. Just look out. Look at that.
That's a tiny bit.
Tiny bit. All these tiny bits are more likely going to be on an 1/8 inch shank. So we are rocking the 1/8 inch collet today.
And while you're setting this up, we had a couple questions on what is the best brass to use. There are a lot of different brasses out there, if you're looking for brass, I would look for something called maybe free machining brass or easy to machine brass. We're using 360 alloy brass, which is a little easier to cut. Now, usually these brasses have a little bit of lead in them. Easy to machine steels and brasses usually have that lead, which is very soft and helps the metal peel away from itself. So I wouldn't use this brass for anything that you're gonna lick or give to a kid, you know? But when you're cutting it with Origin, a little bit of lead can help make that cutting process just a little easier. The nice thing about metals is that we're making chips, not dust, especially if we are feeding at the appropriate speeds. So you shouldn't have to worry about breathing this stuff. Just know that it is an ingredient in 360 brass.
And I am just trying to cut these little corners.
Just the one little corner. It's not even both of them. It's just the one on the upper left.
Which is actually our right.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I'm just going to go full depth.
Okay.
Plunge on it.
Just one little cut here, just to clean that up. Nice and slow. Yep, that's it. Did it survive?
It sounded like it. Yes, it did.
Oh, yeah. Great.
I did skip over the outside of the circle, so I'm going to jump back to my 1/8 inch.
This I feel nervous about. Do we really want to risk peeling this whole thing up again just to cut the outside of the circle?
Yeah.
Okay. Should we stick it down again one more time?
No.
I think we should stick it down again one more
It's
time.
going to happen. It's going to happen. No, I will.
Okay.
Although I feel like we put very little cutting force on it since.
I think it's more about vibrations than it is outright force. How does that ring for you?
That actually makes a lot of sense. Little double-sided tape.
Very nice. And for this, to cut this, we want to make sure that we use offsets that are big enough to cut all the way around to those outside corners.
Mm-hmm.
So we can bump that up just so that we nab those and then sneak it in from there. And since we're going to be cutting through the wood fixture on this also, it's important to know we can move at whatever pace we want inside the wood. We just need to make sure that we slow it back down again by the time we get to the brass.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, nice and easy through that corner. Cruise through the wood. Slowing it down again. Now let's see what that looks like on Origin's screen. Going around the outside and just making sure to slow down and use that auto mode when we get to the corner and we're interacting with that brass. Very nice. First pass, now we're going down to pass 2. And again, auto pass is automatically ramping Jake down through these shallow passes that he's taking to make sure that Origin and the brass are getting along all right. And at the end of that cut, Origin will automatically retract. So now for the second cut, we're using auto pass at full width of the bit with auto lock mode. That's a great idea. Auto lock mode is going to make sure that we keep stuck on that auto pace. Jake, it sounds pretty rumbly. I think we're cutting too much material at once for this tape again. You're just pressing that down and we're going for it. Okay. Let's see. Let's slow it down and take a break so that we can actually talk about it and so that everybody can hear what we're doing. Yeah. Because Origin running, I think, is just having us talk to ourselves here.
So it sounded rumbly.
It sounded rumbly.
It looks good.
We have to trust the sounds. We have to trust what the machine is telling us.
So what I was going to do is, instead of doing a millimeter per pass, add another pass to that auto pass list, just to break that up a little bit more.
I think that what we should do is cut at that full depth and take off offsets.
So use the side of the bit more.
Use the side of the bit, not the bottom of the bit, because the bottom of the bit's what's going to pull material up far more than the side of the bit. And I would step that in by about a millimeter at a time, or maybe a half a millimeter at a time. So full depth, no auto pass, a millimeter at a time.
Minus 1 millimeter or half millimeter.
Let's go for 1. I think we can do 1, but we should put some fresh tape on this. Always fresh tape. I hate to be that guy.
Hey.
It's going to feel so fast and rewarding by the time we get to, I don't know if we're actually going to be able to put the hole in the other side, Jake. Not with this setup. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it.
Possible.
Because we're not going to have very much to stick down anymore.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah, we're just going to have that letter A. We should have done the hole first. I'm going to add this to our notes.
Alrighty. Going full depth, but just a millimeter offset. Let's do it.
All right, let's hear how this sounds. We're about to start hearing it really now. Oh yeah, that sounds great. That's a nice hum. And Jake's using the green button here to toggle between auto mode on and off. And we do want to make sure that we go all the way around this. This is a cool thing about that cut history. You can see that what Jake's already cut is a lighter blue. That means that he hasn't gone all the way down to the depth at which he's cutting now. So we want to make sure that we go over that lighter blue area again still. We're going to take off 1 more millimeter here. And we're just about to the point where we're cutting brass all the way around this circle. We've got a little bit of wood just on the outside. Those do look like some really nice chips. We've got some nice long slivers there. Beautiful. I think we can bring that down to 0. What do you think? Just a little bit over a millimeter there. 1 millimeter being 0.04 inches, so we're at about 1.25 millimeters for this cut. And we want to listen really carefully for any of that crunching, rumbling sound, because that's going to be our sign that this fixture's breaking loose again, but it sounds really good for now. We got a really nice steady hum, and you want to feel nice even resistance. You want to hear a nice steady hum when you're cutting a soft metal like this, and we'll show you what a good chip looks like also once we've cut all the way around this part. There we go.
That was light years better.
Mm-hmm. Let's look at those chips. Those are nice. Are those in focus? Maybe a little farther back. Yeah. Okay, Goose says they're good. You really want not a powder, not a dust, but little discrete slivers especially are great. That looks good.
That felt so much better.
Finally, a show where we're coming up against the limits of that double-sided tape.
Doesn't happen often, but
this is such a small part, 1 inch square. Very nice.
I was really looking forward to branding that.
Yeah, well, we should do something to put this hole in here. What do you think we can do? So here's the problem, everybody. We just had this wild ride with the double-sided tape not holding this thing down the way that we wanted it to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the problem, if we just flip this over the way that we fixtured this now, is that the double-sided tape is once again not going to have anything to hold on to.
Right, it's just gonna pull the piece up and out of the fixture.
Pull it right up and out of the fixture. Yeah, exactly. What do you think? What do you think about? You think we could hold this in with a screw?
I'm looking at it. I'm like, maybe
with that space above the between the brass and the top plane of the wood.
Mm-hmm.
Let's think out loud. I think we've got screw. I think we could try to clamp it somehow. Do you think we could clamp it to the front face of workstation?
Probably.
I think we should try that.
We could We could put a vise and clamp a vise.
I've got a vise here. Should we try a vise?
Why not?
Let's try a vise. I think I set it off stage here, so let me go grab it because this was going to be for tapping. And we can set this vise up basically however we want it. We can rectangle probe or just probe the edge to make sure that things are aligned. Here it is. Do you think you could set this on shelf? This is a hefty vise. What do you think?
I want the answer to be yes.
I think the answer could be yes. I'm going to crank this all the way forward so that we've got... Yeah, okay, let's look at this thing. We've got this bottom surface here. I think we can put this up against workstation. We can clamp our brass right up in here, and we can put a hole in it right in the top. Let's try it.
All right, let's do it.
We could have even done this all along, is the funny part. We could have done this all along.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to learn the hard way, I guess.
All right, bring it on over.
Yeah, does this fit on that shelf?
With that handle, I don't know.
All right.
No.
Not quite.
If we crank all the way
Oh,
over.
yeah. There we go. Oh, yeah, just turn it completely 90 degrees. Yeah, that's it right there.
Doo-doo-doo. This also might be a smaller vise.
This is the smallest one I could find. Goose says we have a smaller one under the drill press, but Goose, if you want to come down here and look under the drill press, you can try to find a vise that I didn't see.
Too tall.
Too tall?
But I know exactly
Rats.
which one he's talking about.
Yeah, you sure it's there?
I'm 95% sure.
Okay. I'm ready to be proven wrong on this. If it's not there, we're going to try clamping this straight to workstation.
We have options.
No.
We do.
Okay. What have we got?
We want medium or small?
Oh, I think I want medium. Will medium fit on shelf?
I think so. This
'Cause
was a
I
great.
Both of those rails on there. I want it taped down nice and sturdily. Sturdily. Oh, yeah.
That's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I think we clamp the brass up in this first so that we don't have to mess with the handle while it's on workstation. And then we go ahead and tap that hole. And what I would do to make sure that this is all nice and flat is I would do it upside down on the bench.
Smart guy.
Been around the block a few
This guy
times.
over here.
Yeah, very nice. And right in the center would be ideal also. So you want that to be right in line with the screw there. Yeah. Nothing better than a good vise.
I love a good vise. I love especially a good Wilton vise.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're coming back to the double-sided tape, but we've got a lot more surface area on this one. Cutting that in half. Very nice. Let's get this shelf cam. Yeah, perfect. Goose is reminding us that it's almost 5:15, but Goose, I really want to put the hole in the back of this brass. We got our tape going here. If there's one thing that we can say for sessions, at least it's that we do get it done by the end of the episode, whether it's the way that we expected to do it or not. Oh, yeah. Nice. And we can just line the top of the vise up with that locating bar there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Psh. Oh, yeah. That's great. I'm about to do so much brass with Origin now that we've got this set up.
Okie dokie. New scan.
Okay, and while you do that, I'm going to look for 1024 tap drill size. That's a number 25. So number 25 drill bit diameter. There's so many different types of drills. I don't know why they have the wire drills. Number 25.
All right, we're going probe rectangle for this.
Yeah, perfect.
Going 1,
So,
2.
and
Check.
you're going to probe the sides of the vise here to get the left and the right?
Exactly.
Ah, smart.
Lift up, come around the back. 2. And last but not least, bingo.
Okay. And you have the 1/8 inch bit in there. And what's the depth of cut on that one? Is that the 1/4 inch or the?
It's a 1/4 inch.
Yeah, 1/4 inch. I think we want to go deeper
Okay.
because we've got 7/16 of material to play with here. And we want to get as many threads in this as possible. And we've got a plug tap where the first couple of threads are ground away. And so I think we really want to go at least 3/8 of an inch deep on this so that we give ourselves the most room for this tap as possible.
We want that guy. 1/8 inch by 1/2 inch O flute.
Now, okay, You guys might be thinking at this point, why are these guys going through so much trouble just to drill a hole in the back of this piece of brass? But this is maybe counterintuitively one of my absolute favorite things to do with Origin.
Make holes?
Make holes. Because, okay, to do this on a drill press and get this hole centered, you know how hard that is on a small little 1-inch piece of stock like this? That's crazy hard.
Yeah.
And then, on top of that, I just looked up the tap drill size, the size that you're supposed to drill this hole before you thread it with a 1024 tap. And it's a number 25 drill bit. Does anybody have a number 25 drill bit in their shop? I don't keep the wire drill sizes. We just have fractional drills here.
Yeah.
So, like, what even is that? So we need to drill this hole to 0.152 inches.
0.152.
That's the proper spec on this hole. And this is what Origin's great for. Drilling a hole that is just a weird size, perfectly in the center. We're going to make sure that our speeds are nice and slow for this one. I think we want to go 3/8 of an inch deep.
Gonna turn helix on.
Yep, and then we're going to be able to get nice tap threads in here. We've still got that plunge and auto speed turned down, yeah?
Turn way down.
Double check that, very nice. Okay,
I'm just gonna be hanging out here for a second.
yeah. This is going to be probably on the slower side for a helix. But we do want to make sure that we cut this nice and carefully. And so you can see that helix action working right here. That's taking Jake right up to that 0.152 inches with what is actually an 1/8 inch router bit. So as long as you've got a router bit that's just a little bit smaller than whatever hole you're trying to cut, Origin's gonna make that for you. And even with all the messing around to get the vise on workstation when we didn't really expect to have to do that, that is probably a faster hole than I could have done on our drill press here.
That was fast.
Definitely. I would have had to go to the hardware store to get the drill for this.
Do you want to tap over here too?
If you take it off, I'll do it over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that look right to you? Feels right.
I think it's going to be right. 0.152 has got to be 0.152. And I've got my tapping fluid here.
I'll leave that
You
double
just
sided
leave the tape on. Yeah, got it. Okay. Here we go. So, show of hands, who has done any thread tapping before? Jake, have you tapped some threads?
It's been a minute.
Yeah, I like to get a little bit of oil on the tap itself. Now, one thing that's actually really interesting about this, before I cut this, let's show this off on the Origin cam. This is a plug tap, which means that the first 3 to 4 to 5 threads are ground into a taper there. So they're actually not going to leave any threads in the part. That's why we want to make this hole as deep as possible. If you wanted to cut all the way down to the bottom of this hole, you would want to get a bottoming tap. But you always do the plug tap first. Okay, so always make sure you start as square as possible. Do I look square from that angle, Jake?
From my angle, you look square.
Yeah, perfect. And I would do 3 half rotations and then a little thread break. Because this type of tap pushes those chips right in between the flutes, and it gets gummed up unless you snap them free. And with taps, you don't want to push them too hard. When it feels like you're at the bottom of the hole, you are.
Good to know.
Ask me how many taps I've broken off in metal threads, Jake. Far more than the number of times I've reversed the branding iron logo accidentally. We got some nice chips in there. Oh yeah. There we go. That's great. You want to pop this on?
Please.
And for anybody wondering what this setup is that we've got here, we got this handle off McMaster Carr, we got this steel rod and a set screw off McMaster Carr also, and we just assembled it all together. It's a press fit with the rod into the handle. The brass we got from McMaster Carr.
We got there.
We got there. Goose says show off the brass. Oh yeah, very nice. Should we set that on fire?
Let's set it on fire.
Okay.
After all that.
Jake, you had one tip for branding wood, right?
Yes. To avoid excess heat from making kind of a shadow line.
Did you say excess heat?
Excess heat. While you start getting that hot.
Yeah, okay.
You want to moisten the top surface. Just a little spritz of water.
Ah, okay. It's been a long time since we've done this, so I'm actually not sure what's hot enough.
We're going to find that out.
We're going to find out. Always do this with a piece of test stock first, because you don't want to get a bad brand in your chair that you've worked ages on. Got that maple, right?
Got that maple.
Okay, and this one's got a direction on it. The J, so that's the bottom. Okay, you ready?
Coming to you.
Okay. Let's go. Let's do one of these. Oh, Goose says move the vise. Goose, the vise is pretty stuck. Okay. There we go. Okay, let's give this a little more heat. Let's triple check that what I think is the bottom is the bottom. Okay, here we go.
Wait.
What?
Just kidding.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go.
It's crispy. I gotta
Let's
show
show
that
that off on the detail camera. Oh, yeah, we got there, everybody. That's a nice brand.
It is nice. Simple.
Simple. Okay. I'm afraid to set this down now.
I wouldn't.
I'm going to go put this in the sink. I'll be right back.
Yeah, wait, the plastic sink?
Yeah, I'm going to douse it first.
Okay.
The plastic sink. Yes, it is a plastic sink. I'm going to cool it off.
Yeah, very happy with that. Thank you for sticking with it, everybody. We appreciate it. And hopefully you learned something along the way, as we certainly did. Fixturing is a huge part of any battle, especially when you're dealing with denser materials.
Is it funny if I talk while I'm off camera? I'm back. Yeah, I took some notes on that. So here's what we learned from this show. Okay, number one, the tape is great, but
it needs surface area.
1 inch square part is small to start with. And then when you cut more material away from underneath that, that really didn't set us up for success. So it held, actually. We just had to keep reapplying it. So that's rule number one. Make sure that you've got enough surface area to hold this stuff down. When we did this before, remember I showed this off earlier, we actually cut this into a whole friggin' bar of brass that we just taped straight down to the workstation shelf. But we were trying to get fancy about it and cutting the square first. And don't do that. Cut this stuff first. What else did we learn?
We learned that lateral force is better than vertical force.
Yes, definitely. Cutting on the side of the router bit's going to pull up less than cutting straight down, from the top down.
Going to your final depth and using offsets to work your way in.
Mm-hmm.
That felt a lot better.
Yep.
A lot more better.
A lot more better. And then what else did I write down here? We should have done the hole first if we were trying to give ourselves as much surface area to stick this part down as possible.
We learned that vices work on shelf.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah. We should contact Wilton and see what size vise they would recommend for a workstation shelf. You know, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
Have like a workstation specific vise.
Let's just take an array of Wilton vices just in case.
We'll take an array just in case. If anybody has any connections at Wilton, that email address is sessions@shapertools.com. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
It was. Thank you again, everyone, so much. Let's give away a Sis Air.
Yeah, okay, so we're going to roll into the Q&A. If you're watching this on demand on YouTube, Join us next time live for Shaper Sessions. We do this every other Thursday. Thanks for tuning in.
Take care.